About the 1st of September, we sailed down the lake to besiege St. John's. On the 6th, General Schuyler wished to try the British defenses at the fort, and to test the loyalty of potentially sympathetic Canadians. The head of our marching column had scarcely found our pace when 2 companies sprang an ambush. For half an hour, we fought them until we pushed them back into the forest fringe and into the swampy land, where they vanished amongst the cattails. Major Thomas Hobby led us back to the rest of the army with our company commander carried on a makeshift stretcher. 3 of our number were wounded, and 5 Connecticut men dead. Quietly, we were set to work, digging trenches and graves. But we were spotted. Dirt, roots, and blood exploded as shells fell around us. And still we dug, until Schuyler ordered us to march to a new location about 4 miles away. Grudgingly, we picked up our muskets, our coats, and our equipment, and we tagged along into the gloom behind our high-born New York general. The next morning, Schuyler ordered us to retreat. Again. Considering we had already dug the trenches at this new location, we were less than pleased with the general. To appease us, Schuyler posted a written explanation for his order. Apparently, a spy had come in the night to warn him that the Canadians would not join us. So again, we packed up, abandoned the defenses we had just built, and marched back, wondering why we had to expend so much time and effort, not to mention the lives of our fallen soldiers. If we could have simply waited for the spy to report back before leaving camp. When we returned, we were happy to see reinforcements from New York bringing provisions, guns, and mortars. It would be a relief to let someone else do the fighting for a change. Or so we thought. Schuyler ordered the New York regiment to infiltrate beyond the fort. The new recruits panicked during their nighttime march. Most of them were idlers, scavenged from the alleys in the city. They were terrified by the silence and the sounds of the forest at night, and frightened that Indians were hiding in the woods. They nervously started firing blindly as they moved through the darkness. They wandered amongst the trees and lost their bearings. Then, overcome by their own fears, all 500 of them stampeded for the river. In their flight from the forest, they collided with our covering party. General Montgomery attempted to calm and quiet the demoralized New York troops, but he could not convince them to hold the river position. The fear of the Indians in the night became with the day, the dread of the British schooner, the Royal Savage. As Montgomery and the New Yorkers fled, we managed to sink a British gunboat, the only success of our expedition. As time passed, we became more frustrated with our commanding officers. Over and over, they would disregard the will of the men and make mistakes that we ended up paying for. When it came to decision-making, we preferred to call meetings at camp, as we did in our committees back at home. We would discuss our options and vote on a decision. Montgomery and Schuyler found this appalling. They preferred to simply give orders and expected us to follow without question. One day, I overheard Montgomery complain to Schuyler. "The soldiers carry the spirit of freedom into the field and think for themselves. They demonstrate such a leveling spirit, such an equality among them, that the officers have no authority. The privates are all generals." I felt resentful toward his tone, but he wasn't wrong. Were we not fighting for self-governance? Why should our army not live up to these same ideals? It seemed to me that while soldiers fought for freedom, these officers were fighting to make themselves the new aristocracy. The Continental Congress itself was dominated by rich men, linked together by business and family connections. Why would we want to trade one tyrant across the sea for a handful of tyrants at home? Eventually, Montgomery started to realize that our spirit of freedom could not be defeated. He could get away with using a strong arm when dealing with the cowardly New Yorkers, but he would have to have a flexible wrist if he wanted our cooperation. Even Schuyler stopped giving commands and instead issued requests. He was visibly irritated whenever we made him explain the reasoning behind his decisions. It amounted to little difference in the end, but we certainly enjoyed that the high-born aristocrat had to speak with all of us commoners as equals. This was a revolution, after all.